What can pastors do to strengthen and honor the marriages in their churches? Dr. Greg Smalley talks about how he's working alongside pastors and ministry leaders to strengthen families. It's all in episode 33 of the Church Leaders Podcast.
Welcome to the Church Leaders Podcast, where we're helping you lead better every day. And now here's your host, podcasting from scenic Colorado Springs, Colorado, Andrew Hess.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 33 of the Church Leaders Podcast. Our guest this week is Dr. Greg Smalley. Greg is the Vice President of Marriage and Family Ministries at Focus on the Family. You'll want to hear Greg's vision for working with pastors and churches to help couples have stronger marriages and also help them replicate strong marriages. And now, here's our conversation with Greg Smalley. Well, Dr. Greg Smalley, thanks so much for being our guest here on the Church Leaders Podcast.
You are welcome. Thanks for having me. That's brave of you. Not too many people.
Yeah, well, Greg,
do this.
Yeah, you know, you are the Vice President of Marriage and Family here at Focus on the Family, and this is a place I love. I spent 4 good years here working with Focus.
I remember.
Yeah.
And then you abandoned us. But that's okay. I wasn't going to bring that up.
Yeah, but I guess I brought it up kind of indirectly. I set you up for that. But Greg, I wanted to talk to you about marriage and family. Focus is doing such great work here, supporting families and marriages. And at Church Leaders, that's something that we hear a lot from our audience. Pastors want help. They want insight into how can they strengthen families. And I think a lot of pastors feel like, man, there's bad news about family. It seems like marriages are in decline, and you hear all this stuff.
Right.
Tell us about how kind of God laid marriage and family on your heart and kind of led you to focus on the family.
You know, one of my favorite analogies about what I'm passionate about in terms of marriage, we had, at some point, we were living in Arkansas. I had this whatever weed was in my grass. And so my wife's going, you got to do something about these weeds. So, I marched down to whatever, Home Depot, Lowe's, and I just, on my own, just picked up some sprays. I'm looking at them, bring them back, and I go around the lawn, spraying them. Mm-hmm. And a couple days later, Aaron goes, you got to come see this. So go back out to the lawn, and everywhere that I sprayed was dead spots, except for the weeds.
Oh no!
It like didn't affect it. Like made them bigger. They were like drinking in whatever I was spraying on them. So she's begging me, please go talk to someone. Which is, come on, as a guy, really? All right. So I go back. So I'm talking to this guy, and I took pictures, and so I'm showing him, hey, here's a picture of the weed, and he's like, well, what did you use? And I showed him, and he's like, oh yeah, that's the worst thing you could have done. And I thought, really? And he goes, no. He goes, for this particular kind of weed, you don't ever want to go after the weed. He goes, what you want to do is you want to grow the healthy grass around the weed, and eventually the healthy grass will choke out the weeds. And when I heard him say that, it was really cool. I flashed to everything that I was passionate about marriage, and I just went, you know what, buddy? You may be from Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, but that's the best definition of marriage ministry I've ever heard. Instead of trying to weed out divorce, instead of trying to focus on the problem, I really get passionate about focusing on how do we grow healthy marriages, knowing that as those spread, that's what's going to end up choking out divorce. And so I don't give much time to, hey, how do we eliminate divorce? What are we doing about all these problems? Really, what I get passionate about is going, how do we help couples have stronger marriages so that they can replicate strong marriages? So my vision statement, strong marriages, replicating strong marriages. So my hope is that if we can, whatever season someone's in, so they may be in a great season or they may be in a hard season, we just, how do we help them get stronger and then give them a vision of going, now is your opportunity then to help someone else. So you be strong so you can help another couple be strong. And as we continue to do that, that ripple effect, over time, as I kept applying whatever stuff he gave me, it really happened. The healthy grass took over and the weeds were gone. And that's the opportunity of the church. We have so many amazing couples who are passionate about marriage, who have good marriages, strong marriages, and even those who are hurting. And boy, once they get back on the right path, man, that becomes our army. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love the local church. For many reasons, that being one of them. It contains an army of strong marriages, and I think that's the answer.
Yeah, and I know that like here at Focus, a lot of the things that you're doing to support strong marriages and build strong families, you're working alongside of pastors
Yes.
and ministry leaders. And so can you talk about some of those initiatives that you guys are doing where you see part of the work of Focus on the Family is to work alongside of pastors and ministry leaders?
A number of years ago, I was listening to Rick Warren talk about his, what he called the peace plan. He's going to go into Western Rwanda and get medical care for anyone there. And the problem was there were only a couple clinics, a couple hospitals, and it took someone like 3 days walk to get there. And I'll never forget what he showed this PowerPoint, and he clicked a button, and 4, 5, 6, 7 dots lit up around this map. And that's what he was saying, the clinics and the hospitals and the doctors. And then he clicked the button again, and the entire map filled with red dots. So, he had us all there, captivated, going, what on earth? And he goes, now, here are the number of churches in Western Rwanda. He goes, if we want to spread medical care, do you think it's going to go through a hospital, a doctor, a clinic? No, it's going to go through the local church. And when I saw that, I thought, man, that you could make that same argument for marriage. We could have the same map here in the U.S. We could click a couple buttons and maybe focus on the family and family life, and a number of other great ministries would pop up. But you hit that button again, that thing would be lit up full of red dots representing the local church. And to me, the church should be the number one distribution center of not just medical care like in Western Rwanda, but for healthy marriages. Because the church is just so ideally positioned that most of the marriage activities go on within church, whether that's seminars, small groups, Sunday school classes, whether we're preaching on that. And that's why our heart here at Focus is how do we serve and support? How do we offer maybe some products or whatever to help churches really do that well? But we want to make it clear, though, that we don't see us, Focus, being the answer. We're a part, but we really do see the local church as being the answer. And I mean that, because that might sound, well, hey, you're on Andrew's podcast, and of course you're going to give lip service to the, but honestly, I really do see the church as the number one distribution center for healthy marriages.
And pastors and ministry leaders that are listening right now and have that vision, share that vision, and they're on the front lines in a lot of ways. They feel the marriage crisis firsthand because they have couples in their offices.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're doing that.
It's overwhelming.
It is. And I think a lot of times, that's what we hear is that the pastors are just overwhelmed. They don't feel like they're equipped to do this. And that's where I think you guys play such a great role, is some of the things that you guys are developing, pastors can lean on. And so it's resourcing pastors. And so that's the thing I'm most passionate about is letting our audience know some of the great things that you guys are doing. So can you tell us, I'm really excited about the honor marriage events.
Yeah.
Is that the right, am I get the name
right?
It
is, yeah. When we think about helping couples, we divide it into 3 categories. You have to prepare couples to get married, like someone I know.
Yeah.
We have to strengthen existing marriages and then help couples who are in crisis. And so I think that, in the broadest sense, really is the marriage ministry plan in every church, like it is for us. And so, for example, for preparing couples to get married, we have this new program called Ready to Wed. And so what we did is we spent a ton of time just interviewing pastors going, we know that you really don't want to marry someone unless they go through, some kind of training. What if we put together kind of the best people teaching on these 10 topics that every couple needs to know? By the way, the research shows that couples who go through that, through premarital education, at least 8 to 10 hours, 80% stay together.
Oh, wow.
So, that's huge.
Yeah.
And again, the best place where we can do that is when the church, because that pastor can say, before I marry you, you're going to go through something like a Ready to Wed. But to support the church, what we've done is that everything that we create has a mentor component with it. Because to your point, pastors are overwhelmed. And instead of saying, here, pastor, here's one more thing for you to do, they're all built for that, marriage mentor or another couple in the church. Like I was saying, that army of people that are in every church can use. So the pastor isn't burdened by that and can say, hey, Fred and Nancy, here you go. Why don't you guys take some of our couples through that? And they get to build the relationship with the couple, but we provide sort of the education so it's coming from a reliable source. So that's why everything we do, though, is with that in mind. How do we lift up the mentors in the congregation so that the pastor isn't burdened, but the relationships are not being built with focus, are being built with the couple using some of the resources that we provide. Mm-hmm. And so that's on the prepare side. The strengthen side, like you were talking about. What was cool is I was just checking my schedule. Someone had asked, hey, can you come speak at our church next, Valentine's Day, 2016, February 14th. Better get that one right. Honey, sorry. And I just happened to notice that it was on a Sunday. Valentine's Day is on a Sunday this year. So we started going, what would that be like for churches who probably a lot will stay away from, we're not going to preach, on Valentine, but what if it hits a Sunday? Is there a cool opportunity? And so we just started asking questions going, if it's on a Sunday, would you want to do anything? And what we kept hearing is going, yeah, but not sure what we do. And then what's hard about that, if we talk about marriage or law, it excludes, maybe the youth or singles. So what we did is that we thought, well, first of all, Hebrews 13:4 says that marriage should be honored by all. So what would that look like if an entire congregation, so the kids, the youth, singles, married couples, what would it look like for all of us to honor marriage? And so we put together this kit for a church, just using that verse. And what's cool is, so we give sermon illustrations, everything you would need. Plus we give little activities so the whole church on that Sunday can be talking about how to honor marriage. Like for kids, like when, Aaron and I have 4 kids. We've been married almost 24 years. And from day one, we have always taught our kids, hey, when we put you to bed at whatever, 8:30, if you get out of bed, see, you're actually taken away from mom and dad's time. And this is where we strengthen our marriage. And so what we would do is we'd say, so if you get out of bed and ask, I will time this. However much time you take from me, I will double that for you tomorrow, and you'll just sit in a timeout for that amount of time. And they learned very quickly to take us serious, because we just wanted to keep them going, hey guys, it's in your best interest for us to stay together anyway, so you got to give us that time. And so, we're teaching kids, how do you honor your parents' marriage, even if they've gone through a divorce? And I mean, how do you, start to think about your own marriage? The youth, singles. You've interviewed, I know, Lisa Anderson many times with our ministry Boundless, and so she put together how singles can honor marriage. So what's cool is that you could literally have this day using Hebrews 13:4 is just a way to the whole church honoring marriage. Instead of lamenting about the divorce rate or Supreme Court decisions, let's not focus on the problem. Let's focus on, how do you grow that healthy grass? And one of them is, how do we learn how to really honor marriage?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so good, because I think a lot of times we think, oh, well, people that are married should honor marriage. And we think of it in terms of honoring vows and things. Right. But I think that perspective of wherever you are, kind of on the road to marriage or being married, what does it mean to hold that in an honorable state and to really value that? I love that idea with the kids, and teaching kids that, no, this is a valuable thing, and that even the kids can support mom and dad's marriage. That's right. Because that's something that, growing up, I grew up in a great family, and my parents had a really strong marriage, but I never thought about that as a kid, that I can actually, honor their marriage in ways by going to bed early, apparently.
Well, even, date nights, when Aaron and I would try to leave, the kids are acting out, they're clinging. And I remember one time we were trying to leave on a date, and our youngest daughter was just wrapped full arms and legs around Aaron's leg, and just would not let her go. And I'm thinking, I got to say something here. We're never going to get out of the house. It was so cool. At the time, my 10-year-old son, who's now 15, he drops down and says, Annie, whoa. He goes, hey, it's okay. You need to let mom go. Mom and dad need to go out on dates. This is how they keep their marriage strong. Honestly, he said that.
Wow.
It blew me away. I'm thinking, I didn't realize you listen to anything I say anyway. Wow, you get it. It was so cute. Annie goes, really? She goes, oh, okay. She goes, well, what do they do on their date? And Garrison It kind of stumped him, and he goes, I have no idea, but I think it ends in kissing. I was like, that's my boy.
Yeah,
you get it. So, but that's
good.
All of that is that we with our kids, we frame all of that back into that Hebrews 13:4. This is how you guys, remember, you're part of the all. This is how you honor our marriage, by going to bed, letting us go out on dates, not acting out, with the babysitter, getting into fights to where they're having to call us. I mean, that just drives me crazy. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk to him and say, hey, are you honoring our marriage right now? You and your sister fighting, me having to take time away from your mom to intervene. Is that honoring our marriage? No, Dad. What do you need to do? Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, so we've really worked hard. That's the opportunity for that Valentine's Day, is that we can do that.
And these marriage events, what's your vision for them? Like, think about the ideal church, or the church out there that kind of takes what you guys are providing and runs with it. What would that look like that weekend for couples in that church?
Yeah, we call it a weekend experience because obviously every church is a little bit different. Friday night services, Saturday, Sunday, small groups, Sunday school, whatever. But ideally, it would be that the whole church would do something to honor marriage. So within our Sunday school class, within our small groups, that we'd be talking about how to honor marriage. And again, we give you everything you need. We give you little curriculum stuff. I mean, it's just real simple stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the pastor would preach a sermon on this idea of honoring marriage. What does that mean? And then what does that look like practically speaking? And then what's cool is that we filmed a date night DVD using this comedy tour of a guy named Jason Earls, a guy named John Branning, and a guy named Ted Cunningham. Two of them are pastors, but they all do great relationship comedy, so marriage, family, and they're some of the funniest guys that I know. And so a church could preach on this, their congregation could go through this in their small groups and Sunday school classes, and then they could do a little sweetheart banquet or whatever, and we'll provide you with the entertainment. And so instead of you paying money to bring in, some big name comedians, we tape that. It's a DVD. You have your banquet, you pop it in, and now you've got this built-in experience for that weekend of just Valentine's weekend, just of honoring marriage. And you're not excluding anybody. So we're not calling it a marriage event. It's honoring marriage weekend, and it ends with this kind of couples date night event. And so any couples can come to that. Tell you what, we've done this before, and one of the things that we saw is that there was one big church did this, and it's like their small group attendance rose by 40% after hosting kind of this date night event, because it gave them an opportunity to bring in people who ordinarily wouldn't come necessarily to a service, but they loved this idea about just coming to a date night that felt safe. That was an easy on-ramp, into marriage strengthening activities. Because sometimes, honestly, a small group on marriage, or a marriage book that we're going to study, or a marriage event we're going to go to, that can be a big leap for a lot of people. It's just we don't do anything, and now you want us to go to this. But a date night, that's common vernacular. Everybody gets what that means. It feels safe. It feels pretty easy. And so it's just a very easy way for a church even to do some outreach and invite people, and people come just to laugh and have fun. And now it's up to the church to draw them back. But we've watched churches really be able to do that.
Well, it's so neat, and it seems like you guys have done all the hard work for them.
Right.
You've made it easy for pastors that want to strengthen marriages in their church. And so we'll link to, in the show notes for this episode, ways that or the places that pastors can download. I know there's a kit that kind of just lays everything out there.
It's a website they can go to, honoringmarriage2016.com. They can get everything they need from that.
That's great. And let's talk about that third piece of the work that you guys are doing with marriage, and that's
the saving.
Saving marriages that are in crisis. So talk about that important work that you guys are doing.
Yeah. My wife and I, 15 years ago, we started a ministry in Branson, Missouri, and it was basically a marriage ER called the National Institute of Marriage. And we spent years and years doing that. And over the years, we've probably seen 3,000 couples or so go through this kind of marriage ER. And what's cool, and these were couples who were in hardcore distress, on the brink of divorce, maybe divorce papers in hand. what we've found is that when you track these couples, we tracked them and after 2 years, 85% of those couples were still together. And that's not to say, hey, look at us. It's really God is all about marriages being restored. He is always there. He is always fighting for our marriage. What we've discovered is there's some key things that if it happens, it really lends itself to couples getting back together. And so now that's a part of Focus on the Family. And so we have this place that couples can go. They're in a couple different places, and 85% successful. And I'll take those odds.
Wow.
Anytime. So
absolutely.
What it does, it gives some couples hope, because as you were talking a little bit earlier, what's so overwhelming for a lot of pastors is that when a couple's in crisis, they come to that pastor. What's cool is I saw a study that said that a couple's more likely to go to a pastor before even going to a counselor. Again, what an opportunity. And so I believe that a pastor or someone within that church can play such a vital role of almost triaging. But then for most pastors, they need somewhere to send. And so either you've got some great relationships with counselors in your area, but this is a fantastic program. It's a marriage ER, 85% successful. So you can be with that couple, praying with that couple, giving them hope, and then say, now you need to go to this. And then they'll plug right back into that church. Because what we've watched is when couples feel helped, when they went through marriage crisis by a church, by pastor, man, they're fans for life. I mean, they are. You talk about loyal. You talk about a loyal fan base. I mean, I know that's a weird way to put it, but we've just watched that happen over and over and over again.
Wow. And is there if a pastor's listening right now and has a couple in mind, man, these guys could use this. What's the way to actually connect those dots and help them, get into the program? I mean, I imagine there might be a waiting list for something.
There is. If they went to nationalmarriage.com, so that's a part of Focus on the Family now. So you can either go to focusonthefamily.com. There's links there. You can call 800-A-FAMILY and they'll get connected that way. But nationalmarriage.com is the exact website for that intensive ministry that we have, and it's powerful. It's all Christian. It's Christian licensed psychologists and therapists. I mean, when you have a heart problem, you need to go to a heart specialist, and that's really what these counselors are. They really understand how to help a couple in crisis.
Well, you're right. That's amazing. 85%. I mean, those are amazing numbers, and I just think about all the countless people that would benefit from that.
Yeah.
And even I bet you have pastors that would even come and be a part of that.
Yeah, and I tell you what, right off the bat, if there's a pastor who needs help, we give a 50% discount the moment that they call in. Just because you talk about, when I was doing those, I would have been so satisfied in life if all I did was work with pastoral couples who were hurting and doing intensives with those pastoral couples. So, boy, if that's where you're at, and even honestly, Andrew, it doesn't even have to be for a pastor. It doesn't have to be like, well, we're on the brink of divorce. It could be that you're just stuck. It could be just there's some things going on, and we all can benefit from help. We all go through hard seasons. Aaron and I did. I thought my wife was going to leave me 2 years into our marriage. I was convinced that it was over, and we got in and got help. And we'd love to do that with a pastor. You give us a call, 800-A-FAMILY. We will get you into one of these intensives. And I promise you it'll help.
And I think that's such a powerful thing, because I think, especially in the church, there can be a stigma against needing counseling or getting help. And that's one of the things I love about Focus is taking away that stigma and saying, no, we all need help. Every relationship can be improved and can be made better. And that you look at the long-term benefits of a strong marriage on a family and just the impact that a strong marriage can have. It's worth fighting for. And I know you and your wife have written a lot about fighting for marriage.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for being with us, being on this program. So many great things. And my encouragement to all of those pastors and ministry leaders listening is to explore all the ways that you guys are coming alongside of them to help them in their work of strengthening marriages, preparing for marriage, and then also saving marriages in crisis. So thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's our joy to come alongside. We'd love to serve in any way.
Thanks again to Dr. Greg Smalley for joining us this week as our special guest on the Church Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a few minutes to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes, and consider sending this episode to someone you know who might be blessed by its message. Make sure to download the show notes for this episode at ChurchLeaders.com/podcast. The show notes always include resources mentioned in the show and links to some of our guests' top content on ChurchLeaders.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
You've been listening to the Church Leaders Podcast. For articles, videos, and free resources that will help you lead better every day, visit our website, ChurchLeaders.com. Thanks for listening.